Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Hey guys, today I'm bringing another side-by-side comparison, and this is against the two most exciting phones for the holiday season. That is the iPhone 5S and the Galaxy Note 3. Now, say what you will about other phones on the market, these two have grabbed more people's attention than any other phones currently right now. So, today we're going to find out which one truly is the best. And yes, although my name is Ask the Android Guy, I do try to be fair and always give phones credit where they're due, especially if you've seen some of my recent comparisons. I try to do this more and more. So let's see which one is the best overall. Now, when it comes to look and feel, these two companies, especially with these two specific phones, have really taken the next step in what premium means in a phone. The iPhone 5S, we've gotten the same type of style as the iPhone 5, but in this new gold trim. Now, I've said this before, I do wish instead of the white, it was a lighter gold, or if there was just some indication of the gold in the front. That's the only annoyance that I have with the 5S, is that if you have a case on it, no one can tell you have the gold one. So I feel that a lot of iPhone 5S buyers, especially those that are waiting for the gold specifically, are kind of missing out and don't really realize that you can't really tell it's the gold except for that little gold ring, which isn't obviously prevalent. And you know, if you want to show off your gold phone, you're just going to have to get like a clear case or something. So in terms of look and feel, though, obviously very light, thin, and aluminum, which a lot of people have liked the feel of this. So when it comes to Samsung, they've never won a look and feel in comparison. However, this one is quite different. Especially with the black one, there has been a difference. The black one really does feel more of like a leather style material as compared to the white. And if you feel both of them, you'll actually feel the difference. I'm not sure why this is, if this was Samsung's first batch, but the look and feel of the black Note 3 really feels good. The leather texture really feels nice, and it feels good and easy to hold. I've had a lot of people actually ask me, oh, is this, you know, something you put on there? Like, no, actually, this is standard. So a lot of people have liked it. I, for one, am definitely one of them. I wish my S4 would have had this cover. It feels really nice and very premium. Very, very light, lighter than a lot of small phones nowadays. I think it's only like a couple ounces even heavier than the iPhone 5C. So very, very light and a lot lighter than most phones smaller than it. So I think it definitely owns kudos to that. It depends on look and feel. To be honest, this is the first time where I feel that I kind of have to give a tie. And although the iPhone 5S won against the S4 and other phones I've reviewed in terms of look and feel, the look and feel of the Note 3 is really good. And I think anyone that holds it would tell you the same. So for that reason, this will be the first time I give this a tie between look and feel between the iPhone 5S and another phone, namely the Note 3. Now, when it comes to web browsing, there's always one thing we have to look at first, and that is the screen quality. So on the iPhone 5S, you have a Retina display, which in this case means 1136 by 640 resolution, going in at 326 ppi, pixels per inch. On the other hand, we have on this side a Note 3, which is a 5.7 inch screen, with a 1080p resolution. Again, this would be under 720p, and this is 1080, of course. And at the same time, you have an LED screen, which is different from LCD in a couple of different ways, namely the fact that you do have better battery life and also stronger colors. However, the black looks better on here and the white looks better on here. Just a difference, depends on your preference. So let's test out the web browsing and see how each one actually performs on loading the same page. So we're going to move both of these. And going to move both of them to load the same page And I think this both should reload. 1, 2, 3. These are on the same Wi-Fi. This is also a very heavy intense page. The reason I choose this is because most websites will load fairly quickly on both of these devices. So I load a more intense page to see which one will load everything first. And both of them are still going. And hopefully it's not just the internet that's kind of slowing down. Although it could be my hotspot. And we'll give it another second. But basically what I wanted to kind of see is just, first of all, just the fluidity of it. One thing I've pointed out before with web browsing is when it comes to Android and iOS, iOS kind of likes you to tap like this to go between the articles. However, if you need to go quickly to the bottom of a web page, Android is much better for that reason than iOS is. Simply because you have to kind of keep tapping, whereas Android you can just kind of go all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom. This one, the Note 3 actually has finished loading before the iPhone, although both of them were very slow, probably due because of the hotspot, just kind of reloading itself maybe. Now let's check out pinch to zoom on both. So both doing very well with pinch to zoom. Oops. And now double tap. Very good. Again, one thing I can't stand about iOS is if you don't tap in the same exact spot, it'll move it. And again. So as we've seen in double tap before when we did the S4 comparison, the difference between these two are very minimal. Both are great web browsers. Neither one is really bad for web browsing. However, in this case, I really have to give it to the Note 3. Normally I call this a draw just because both are good web browsers and both are great for web browsing. But the reason why I feel I have to give it to the Note 3 is for a couple of reasons. One is the fact that you have a mouse-like experience with the pen that is just really refreshing on a device such as this. You can activate drop-down menus. You can just treat everything like a mouse would be. So I really do like that about it. You don't, of course, have that with the iPhone. Not to mention that you have a better screen quality, and you can obviously view a lot more of your website within the same content and see it more easily. So for that reason, I will give it to the Note 3 for a better web browsing experience. Now when it comes to web browsing, the first thing I always like to do is take a look at the screen quality. So on the left we have the iPhone 5S with a 4-inch Retina display, which in this case means 1136 by 640, which is under 720p. And you have 326 pixels per inch. On this side, you do have a 5.7-inch screen, so over an inch and a half bigger, 1080p screen with 386 pixels per inch, so that does mean more pixels per inch on the Samsung device. And you also have a AMOLED screen, which what LED does is basically give you better battery life, as well as gives you better blacks on here and better whites on here. Although with the new Adapt display, the whites are getting more and more arguable. So let's actually load a page now and see which one really is better for web browsing experience. So, oops. All right, let's tap these. And then refresh them both. 1, 2, 3. Now let's do it. There you go. And I'm loading this web page because it's very heavy. Most web pages will load almost rapid speed with either of these devices, since they're both very well off. However, we just wanted to see if strained, which one's going to load quicker. And it looks like the Note 3 finished. And the iPhone 5S is having some problems. I have to admit, I'm not sure if this is something wrong with the browser with this 5S, because the 5C seemed to load quicker than this one did that I reviewed. But we'll just move on a little bit while it finishes loading. When you tap on these two devices, they're going to move both very fluid. The one thing I did notice as well is that on Android you can scroll all the way down very easily. On iOS you kind of just have to kind of tap it along essentially. Whereas Android you can go straight to the bottom very quickly. And this is nice for some websites, and the iPhone 5S finished. This is nice for some websites that have issues with where you want to go to the career section or contact us and it's on the very bottom. So it's just a nice feature to have. Both are very quick on the pinch to zoom and very reliable when it comes to that. The double tap, let's see. Again. So both move very quickly. Overall, these are both great web browsers, which normally makes me do a tie. However, in this case, I do have to give it to the Note 10.1, simply for a couple of reasons. One, the pen-like experience really gives you a computer experience, which you just can't get on any device. Not to mention the fact that when you actually see both these web pages, you can see more on this device than you can other devices. So it's just been one thing that I have liked, seeing more web page on my screen, not to mention more clarity as well. So because of all these reasons, I will give the Note 3 the better web browsing experience. Now, when it comes to listening to music, both devices had the right idea. That is, putting the speakers on the bottom of the device compared to the back end. Which is something we've seen with the, say, iPad beforehand, that they changed with the iPad mini, and what we've seen with previous Samsung phones and not tablets. So interesting enough, they're both getting closer to the front, which is obviously the best place to have them, but you know, they want to have it aesthetically pleasing, I guess. So for this reason, I still will lift both of these just because I feel it's better and it gets closer to the mic that way for you guys to hear. But we're going to be playing from the iPhone 5S first, then on the Note 3, and then back again on the 5S. So let's play and see which one has the better speaker.
Crazy how the game is changed. The lights go on, they scream my name. The curtain goes down, I remain the same. But all that money don't equal the price of fame. From LA to New York, Seattle to the Bay, West Palm, night flights to Oahu, making late. Y'all down to Vegas, they know where we stay. Last show in Cali, headed out to the state. I was up with a dream, had my head in the clouds. Now I'm sleeping first class, got a bed in the clouds. Hit my pops to pick me up, and he said he was proud. King shit with a beanie on instead of a crown. Yeah, counting on my blessings. Shout out to the most high. Started from the bottom, now I'm sitting at the most high. Cheapsies to the business, now I'm literally so fly. Motivated by my brokenness, guess that's why they call it coach, right? Yeah, back when I was broke, I was asking why.
Okay, so gave this to several people, as we always do. With this one, overall, we actually got a tie, which is interesting because the S4 actually was louder compared to the 5S. But for the Note 3 and the 5S, they're pretty close to each other. Now, you leave in the comment section down below which one you think won. We had mixed, so we had some people say that the Note 3 won, we had some people say the 5S won. Because we had so many mixed, I just like to call it even then. So both are great for listening to music outside of their bottom speakers. Okay, so when it comes to watching movies, you can pretty much guess who's gonna win, but we have to justify it. So yes, obviously the screen is a difference. Actually, you can fit the entire iPhone 5S within the Note 3 screen, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But the real difference with these is not only the screen quality, but how the screen turns out in terms of tone and everything else. So just in front of this shot, we can definitely see just more realistic tones versus kind of oversaturated tones. Now the Note 3 is on adaptive display, so it automatically switched to make the tones more realistic, then be more vibrant, because it couldn't be more vibrant than the iPhone 5S, but I always have it on adaptive display just so it'll change itself. Now again, I use Samsung commercials simply for the fact that they don't get flagged. So before I get into those, oh my god, look what commercial he used, I do this so they don't get flagged. Alright, and these are going to be playing, and let's see them.
With this, if you're at your transmitter. What time is it? Thank you. This is 86 reporting under control. How's it going? Emergency situation.
Okay, so overall, the Note 3 just has the better pixels per inch. It has really good viewing angles, and obviously the video looks a lot nicer, just bigger. And again, the colors are just more truer. Even with the orange, again, it's just more natural versus overly saturated. In terms of if you want overly saturated, you can get actually that overly saturated as well with this if you wanted to put it to dynamic tones instead of the adaptive display. So overall, the better for watching videos will be the Note 3. As I've said before, I do separate camera comparisons side by side in its own full-length video. However, I thought it would be important to at least go over what we generally found. So, when it comes to low light photos, say with the flash, these are kind of interesting. We see similar to what we saw with the S4 versus the iPhone 5S in terms of the color being a little bit more accurate. I don't know if you can see it again. It's a little bit more pink and purple compared to this screen, but less of it. In terms of with HDR versus the low light mode on the Note 3, again, we just see more light being let through with the Note 3 in comparison to the HDR mode, how much light it lets through, and definitely just a bit better clarity. In terms of daytime pictures, macro, I would still give it to the iPhone, just having a bit better macro in comparison to the Note 3. And again, the reason I said that was because the iPhone typically does what photographers want, and it focuses on this on the front, whereas the Note 3 gives very clear, good clarity to the back as well as the front, but typically people want just the focal point to be one part without getting too technical. Now, these same flowers that we saw earlier outside during the day are definitely going to look better with the Note 3. Just, again, very much so clear, but again, the iPhone gives better color reproduction in comparison to that. So, as you can see, we're seeing a similar theme overall, definitely in terms of the sunset. The iPhone 5 kind of didn't do lighting as good as the Note 3. This is taken at literally seconds apart, but it looks like a darker day with the iPhone in comparison to the Note 3. In terms of low light with flesh tones, Basically, we did several tests, one with the flash first, which the Note 3 just easily took the iPhone. Just fuzziness on the text here, where it's just very clear in here. And overall skin tone was a lot more closer to here than here. I look kind of pinkish here. Neither are completely accurate, but closer. And then the Note also did have a low light mode with flash, which is new. The S4 did not have this feature, and this is by far the closest to my skin tone that I've gone in a flash ever that I've seen. So I thought that was quite unique and really good to know. In HDR mode, again, I've said this before, Apple just seems to do HDR a lot better than Android devices do, so I would still give the HDR mode more to the iPhone. However, Samsung has their low light, which although it's not as bright, it's definitely more clear. So for the overall sensitive, both ones are great cameras, and it's kind of what happened with the S4. You're not going to be mad with either camera. You typically get more details with the Note 3. You typically get better color in well-lit places with the iPhone 5S. So pick or choose, but you're going to be happy with either one. Okay, gaming. This was actually really tough. My initial thought was to make this a tie, and for several reasons. One, these two really do have some of the best graphics cards out there. Now, benchmarks are one thing, obviously. How they play is something different. So the iPhone 5S has the better rated benchmark graphics card, whereas the Note 3 obviously does really good gaming. It's actually done the best gaming out of any mobile device I have yet to see. I haven't used Tegra 4s yet, which is still what I'm waiting to use, but other than that though, this is just unparalleled in gaming in the Android universe from everything I've seen. And that comes from clarity to screen quality and everything. Not to mention that I've said before, one thing I love about Samsung devices is that you can use a little adapter that's less than 15 bucks nowadays, and you can basically hook up a PS3 controller to it directly. You don't have to be a technician, you don't have to be a techie, it just works. So for that reason, and for the fact that if you hand either of these devices to anyone for gaming, they are naturally going to pick this one. I am giving the gaming to the Note 3. Simply because it does a great job of gaming. I don't think most people would notice the difference with gaming between the two in terms of lag or stuttering, but I do believe that anyone would prefer to game on this device than game on the 5S. When it comes to battery life, this is pretty much the quickest open and shut door case you'll find in the mobile industry. The Note 3 just completely outclasses the iPhone 5S. It would actually be more fair to have the iPhone 5S with a Mophie case to compare it to the Note 3. It's one thing that Apple users are definitely envious of. This really does have more than double the battery life of the 5S. So if you are one of those Apple users that really can't stand always needing to charge your phone, either at work or on the go or wherever you're at, the Note 3 is a really, really great refresher. I have yet to need to charge this device in the middle of the day and not need it and be okay if I charge it at night. I really can get a day of heavy usage or a day and a half of average use, which is obviously something you could really never say for the 5S. If you're a heavy user, it's going to die before you're out of work. If you're an average user, you'll probably get through the full day. So depending on the usage, obviously it will determine your overall experience. However, battery life is just substantially better with the Note 3. Now, one of the things that makes these two devices some of the most compelling devices to buy currently right now are their main two extras. The iPhone 5S, of course, having the fingerprint reader, which if you do tend to use passwords a lot, is obviously going to help you, making it a lot easier just from the ability to actually unlock your phone with your finger. The Note 3 brings, of course, with it the S Pen, which definitely has been improved. The S Pen itself is a lot easier for writing on and a lot more premium, not to mention it has a slew of more useful features than it used to, namely my favorite, Action Memo. For this reason, you really kind of have to cater to what your extras are. Overall, I must give it to the Note 3. Even if you counted the 5S fingerprint reader slightly better as an extra for the average everyday user compared to the S Pen, you still have, of course, Samsung's plethora of features. Some useful, not so useful. Split screen is definitely one of the most useful ones. The fact that you can have literally two 5S screens essentially on the Note 3 at the same time, and even click and drag between the screens is very useful. Air gestures to wave when you're picking up a phone call, and of course you do have the physical features, which is add-on storage and removable battery. For this reason, the Note 3 will give the overall more extras. Now, when it comes to price point for these two devices, obviously we have a couple of different ways to go. The iPhone 5S, of course, starts at a lower price point for the 16 gig model, which is $199, and the 16 gig model outright would be $649. However, the Note does not carry a 16 gig model, they only carry a 32 gig model. If we were to go by the 16 gigs, it will of course be cheaper on the iPhone side. However, if we do end up going with the 32 gig version, we have two different selections. We have $299, which is the same price point on contract with the Note 3, or we have the $749 price point outright. Now, in terms of the 32 gig version, you see that the Note 3 is actually going to be either $708 or $724 total for the full price point. So overall, it would be cheaper for the Note 3 at the 32 gig mark. However, if your heart is content on a 16 gig and that's all you really need, the iPhone 5S will be the less expensive one. For this reason, just having a cheaper option, I will give the price point to the iPhone 5S, because you can get a 16 gig model and you can get a phone for a cheaper price, naming $199 instead of the $299 you have to get for the Note 3. Alright, let's tally them up and see which smartphone really is better for the holidays. When it comes to the look and feel, these are really two of the top premium feeling devices out there. If you hold either one of them, you're going to be pleased, and they look great. So for look and feel, it's really your choice because both of them do a great job. For web browsing, this will go to the Note 3 simply because it has a nice bigger screen, better clarity in the pixels, as well as the S Pen adds a mouse function that you can no longer get on web browsing experience on a mobile device, except with this one. Music will become a tie. So overall, this is a tie. Both are really good when it comes to the music portion of this. So overall, music will become a tie with these two devices. Both do really good with music, and this should be treated as a tie. When it comes to movies, movies will be going to the Note 3 just for the better over quality screen, as well, of course, as it seems to just do coloring better, and everything just seems to be better about watching a movie on the Note 3 as opposed to the 5S. When it comes to camera, these two are really good. You're not going to be disappointed with either one as a camera, although the 5S had better color reproduction at times, and the Note 3 had better detail at times. Really, both are great cameras. When it comes to gaming, overall I had to give it to the Note 3 just for the overall better gaming experience, by which I mean that most people would prefer to play games on the Note 3 as opposed to the 5S. Although specs say the 5S would be better for gaming because of its graphics card, The Note 3 has played every game available very well without stuttering or lag and very crisp. Battery life. Battery life just definitely goes to the Note 3. It has more than double the battery life of the 5S, and it's one of the main things that people using the 5S would love to have for this device. Extras. Extras overall is going to go to the Note 3. Both have great extras, obviously the fingerprint reader on the 5S and the S Pen for the Note 3, but the Note 3 just has so many other features that are just not available, whether it be software such as split screen or hardware such as removable battery and add-on storage. Overall, extras will go to the Note 3. And finally, we finish with price. Price point, of course, going to the 5S. Simply because even though at the $299 price point, you could argue that the Note 3 is better, at the $199 price point, there is only one, and that is the 5S. The $299 Note just isn't available at the lower price point. So for that reason, price would go to the 5S. So the overall conclusion is the Note 3 wins in overall categories. Yes, although the 5S is a great device by every means, if you want the best of the best this holiday season, it will be the Note 3. If you have any questions about these devices, feel free to ask. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.